gon' slide. I got family ties. I'm rolling up with that fire. I got 2 strains, some hot grub, about to have a menage. Take a tour inside of my lawns, look like a foreign collage. Nigga, this shit.
Fat Joe had came out and let it be known that people are crazy if they don't believe that blacks and Hispanics had a major part in originating what we call hip-hop culture today. Like, a lot of people have been hitting him with the culture vulture term and all of that because people have been misinformed. So I reached out to the OG and I was like, yo, is this facts? Like, you know what I mean? And I didn't mean to say it from a standpoint of like, nah, that's our shit type shit, nah, it can't be. But it's just to the point where it's like, okay, then just put it in context, elaborate for me, because we get so many different versions of who's who and what's what. But I knew for a fact, OG, that if Kool Herc is credited with being one of the architects, he's a man from the West Indies, he's from Jamaica. So automatically we already getting diverse with it if it comes down to that. But I was hoping you could give it to some context on based on like,
here's the thing.
What are they talking about exactly? Like, you know,
so if they're saying right that Herc was one of the architects and Herc got it from Jamaica, that means that Jamaica had to get it from somewhere. And like I was just saying, Cuba was the first area that the black people were brought to as slaves, where they had to find ways of entertaining themselves. And Cuba is known for that culture, okay? The dancing, the singing, the synchronization of music, the old form of jazz with the bebop that came out of it. I mean, you could name it, man. All of those indigenous people from that time brought with them a creativity that just, how would I say, morphed all over the world. So just like hip hop, we're gonna claim it here in New York, right? But before there was hip hop, there was a sound, right?
Are we leading with the drum? Are we leading with the drum, or
we're leading with the drum and the sound. So diner was a little bit finer, was a little bit finer in the diner. They bop a doo bop 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 bop. Okay, that's a form of rap. In the 30s.
It was scat. What they call that? Scat back
scat,
in the day.
right.
Yeah.
So you take scat and rap. It sounds familiar, right? Because it's the same thing.
Was that Cap Calloway with the high?
The call and response that DJs do and MCs do. Cap Calloway was doing that back in the 30s and 40s. So again, we have to really look at what we're talking about when it comes to factual, where things originated from. So while they were doing that, okay, on the black side, the Cubans and the Latinos and the Puerto Ricans, they already had a certain style and feel, right? So what happened when the jazz was really hot and great, the Latin jazz guys and the black jazz guys got together and they formulated this thing that made jazz just so incredible, right? We don't talk about or get that history because now it forces us to go deeper into where the creativity really comes from, right? So the white man can't claim that. Right? But if we are made up in a DNA that progressed from a country to a country to a country to a country, that DNA exists in all of us.
It makes sense.
And we need to stop separating the Latins from the black because we're still all one people.
And you know what, boss? I'll be honest with you. A lot of the conversation to me, it starts to get lost in the nuance when we start emphasizing exactly the word you use or the term you use, black culture. Because I feel like when people or when internationals come here, they have a misrepresentation of the fact that black culture exists. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, the seeds that planted it. Like you said, everything from the scat era, the doo-wop era, all of those elements that was involved, the artists that we know from the Fats Dominoes to the ones we don't know, you know what I'm saying, that contributed to it. There's a misconception that blacks have no culture.
But see, the problem is this.
It's a problem. That's
I'm
a
gonna
problem.
tell you what the real problem is: division. We put black, we put Latino, we put Mexican, we put all these different terms instead of just saying the diaspora.
But see, listen,
right? The black diaspora, which consists of all of us as a collective.
I trust me, I'm fully on board with the fact that I believe under the umbrella of Pan-Africanism and the spirit of it, all the children of the diaspora who want to lay claims to the land and the teachings should be embraced. Like, and we should embrace each other. I believe it, but I believe that what can't be overlooked, that some of these very same places that we speaking on, you know what I mean, even amongst our Latino brothers and overseas, there's the same thing going on versus the melanated man. Whereas you'll have the lighter skinned Cuban, you know what I mean, may be subject to more rights than the melanated Cuban, or the lighter skinned Dominican may be subject or seen in a more revered light than the melanated Dominican. And what I'm trying to say is that in itself is kind of the stigma that has like followed, you know what I'm saying, the things that you can't hide. It's followed from the places that, you know, our brothers and sisters are migrating from, and given a platform to actually grow, you know what I mean, over here, like to levels that, you know, can't be done in Brazil.
Right.
Can't be done in Santo Domingo. Can't be done in Haiti. Like, you know what I'm saying? So,
but see, the problem why we have that issue again, we have to look at the core of that. The core of that is truly the integration of the real light Portuguese sleeping with the black woman, right? And now you got a lighter skin black person, because that black is always dominant, but they could have grown up in Cuba with that Cuban ancestry and culture, right? So now you're looking at them and you're like, they come in the United States, that's my brother, but no, they're Cuban. By culture, by race, by location, right? And that's rich if you study the history and you take it with you. But if you go to different locations and start looking at the different hues that we have and why we have those different hues, we don't never look at it as a collective, we look at it as a separation.
We've been programmed to see it.
Yes, absolutely. Until we get to a point where we're no longer separating who we are from each other, the smarter, the more powerful the kingdom is going to be. Because, like, you sit here, and I know your mindset, like, I want to hear from the OG today.
Yes, sir.
But for me, I want to hear from my young brothers and their thoughts, so I can grow as well. So if you eating from me, listen, I want to play too.
Yeah.
You got to let me know from your perspective how you see things, So when it comes to us having a conversation, or if there is an ought amongst us, now it's not just one-sided. I can see your perspective and your view. I can see your perspective and your view. I can see your cultural history. I can see your cultural history. Now I can see mine. Now we come together because you were raised this way, and because you've been trained and your learned behavior was this. That's why you respond to that. Not because, oh, you dissing me.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's just what you're saying. It's not that I'm sitting here getting overly defensive about hip-hop or jazz or blues. It's just mainly, like you said, just a kind of almost like a open call for like dialogue, as far as like, all right, so what exactly is black culture to you? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, if it doesn't exist, if it's not worthy of respect, then what is all these templates that we're using for success, black and brown people using for success? outside of the warehouse, outside of the 9 to 5, you look at the culture, you look at the genre and the jobs and the industries that's created through fashion, through music, through sport, through video game, through virtual, you know what I mean? Like through movies, all off of the strength of this one particular genre that, if you want to look at it, its grandfather or its parent, rock and roll, which was ours at one time, started out a movement of the youth and everything, and got taken like in the terms get like there's a difference between metal and rock and roll.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Some people still think rock and roll, like they'd be like, "Why are y'all in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?" Because we started
Yeah.
rock and roll.
See, that history is important.
But it's not unearthed. Like, you know, like it's how can I fully explain it? When you have a generation Z that's out here still in competition with its uncles, with its fathers in certain cases, with its elders, you know what I'm saying? It brings about a level of not even misinformation, but it brings out a gap. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
A comprehension gap. Like, so when we start playing these records with these high frequencies at 4.32 megahertz and all of that, the what's going ons and the ecologies and, you know what I mean, the let's stay togethers and all that, it literally, you know the term go over your head? It go over your head because we're not dealing with frontal lobe type music, cerebral music that travels on down. We're dealing with lower self with the 808s that travel from the lower to the upper. So if we have a generation that's trained to think lowercase head as opposed to higher self, you know what I'm saying? There's gonna be a communication gap with the ones that still remember. You know what I mean? We still come from an era to where the teachings was out there if you wanted it. But now everything's for sale. You know what I mean? So what do you say to the ones who say, listen, y'all left us out here by ourselves to figure it out. So don't wonder why, you know, the competitive nature amongst the community. Don't wonder why the lack of camaraderie. Don't wonder why the slogan is no new friends. Because we learn from the best. Like, you know what I'm saying? And there's a demographic of my younger nephews, baby bros and younger ones that feel that way, and I can't really talk about it.
You're not supposed to. It's a trickle down effect. And as we just discussed a long time ago, even a few weeks back, it's a lot of trust issues within ourselves. And you said certain things have been programmed and conditioned within us. Lack of trust, competitive nature. Like you said, so if some of the elders had certain information, but they didn't fully have it, sometimes they may feel like you're gonna learn the same way I did. You gotta go through trial and error. Or let's be honest, there's some things you can tell somebody. Some people want to learn on their own. Mm-hmm. They figured it, they got it. It's always going to be a tougher. It's always that clash between nature and nurture. And what I mean by nature is your environment, the people around you, the tug of war between the parenting and the environment, the streets, or whomever else is having an effect on your life. Self-esteem, lack of self-esteem. You know, who am I going to listen to more? You know, do I want to be down? I want to be popular, stuff like that. So all of that has to be taken into consideration as well when how our learning process, the frontal lobe, like you said, nowadays this new age style, people are going with what's popular because it's more incentivized to be popular. No disrespect. I mean, as a child in grade school, I heard about, like, I saw newspaper clippings of, like, Cabrini Green and stuff like that. But do you think that...
Old school Chicago.
Right, exactly. Like, legitimately, how they had dudes, like, in certain apartments with sniper rifles and stuff like that. So if their rival gang crossed a certain area of the hood, they're getting taken out. But now you talk about New York drill. Do you really think that we're meant to be like that? to where you're beefing with people that's maybe a building away, maybe
I
something
think
like
man
that.
could become whatever his environment supersedes him to be. Meaning, like, no man can rise above the conditions of his environment without the proper teaching and the proper knowledge. And it starts with knowledge itself. You know what I mean? When you mention Caprini Green, I just think about, how the Chicago situation, like old school Chicago, produced somebody like an Isaiah Thomas. You get what I'm saying? So that goes to show you with the proper teaching. Right. You get what I'm saying? Like, yeah, true, he had to go to Indiana. True, he had to, you know what I'm saying? But with the proper teaching, the roads can grow from the concrete.
I agree wholeheartedly. What I just meant by that is, like, now, basically how they say that the drill music had transferred from Chicago to New York, and then, like you said, the type of how it's lower 808s and different stuff being projected now and being more pushed. Don't get me wrong, we still have our conscious rappers. We still have our rappers that, you know, that are diversified, but it's not the same.
No,
it's
but
not
let's
on
be
the same
honest,
level.
bro. Let's be honest,
it's not going
bro.
to be pushed.
Those artists, the ones that do alternative conversation other than pimping, hoeing. You get what I'm saying? Big baller. I got one, bro. Those that speak on that level, they're marginalized. I don't even feel like, we'll hear albums. Like, I would listen to, like, Goody Mob and, you know what I mean? I was listening to Arrested Development. And you know what I mean? If you want to take it up here, like, I used
J. Cole.
I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, early 90s music, like, to me, like, that kind of, like, basically had, like, you would have 32 songs in rotation as opposed to now, what is it, 16? Yeah. You get what I'm saying? And it just seemed like the conscious record had a chance. Yeah. You know what I mean? It just seemed like the love song had a chance.
I agree.
You know what I mean? When you talk, to add on to what you're saying, if we're dealing with popularity, then it goes down to, all right, we already know who the 3 or 4 major artists is. Mm-hmm. Make sure they 2 singles that they got in rotation. Come on, if it's 16 songs in rotation and we give them 4 apiece, you get what I'm saying? Like, think about it.
But
everything costs.
But even with that, there was a time where, even though there was a steady rotation of music, like you said, about 32 to 50 songs.
Yes.
Right? But there was still an underground set that allowed growth. Mm-hmm. So the DJs back then would make it a conscious effort to go out and find these new artists, these breaking artists that were so unique, and get their records and play them, right? And break them on major radio and be the catalyst for that artist getting to where they need to get to. Nowadays, you don't have that anymore. You don't hear about DJs breaking artists.
When you say that, I think about the Marley Marl, Red Alert, and I asked you, brother, man, you dropped the page. I asked you, does the DJ even have autonomy to even play a record if they like it nowadays? The way we could roll up on a Red Alert back in the day. Can they?
Nah. So let's do this.
You would know better than I do.
XM Radio.
No right.
You got Sway.
Mm-hmm.
You got Rock the Bells with LL Cool J and his team, right? Okay. You have the classic hip hop station, right? All of them have program directors, right? With specific DJs that come on that has a clientele. So those DJs draw people. So why not have your DJ draw this unknown cat, right? That already in the hood got 100,000 followers, right? You break them, the record label's hearing it. Oh, this dude's getting spins too. Let's offer him a major deal. Now it's zoom. So what is a 360 deal? After your first half a million sales, you could go back in and renegotiate your contract.
And they dropping one song at a time, so it's like, damn, you don't even have to hit them with the whole 12 to 13 like you used to.
The game is set up for you to win, but the control mechanism got people in a funnel where they feel like they can only do but this much. When all around outside the circumference of the funnel, there's a million other things going on. So why don't you tap into that?
It's tough to tap into that.
It's not tough.
They're looking at the one system that worked, or the few systems that work. So like you said, that's why when he said 3250, like you said, 32 to 50 I would play with. Back in the day, they didn't know how to control it so much. They were still the people that were incentivizing it, making hip hop get to that platform. The artists were making their music, doing their thing, talking about reporting life, how they knew it. But the people that were trying to really see the big profit from it, they didn't fully know. That's why you said they could give R&F, a certain amount, a big crazy amount. Take care of some of the people on the road, bring as many people on the road as you can and stuff like that. Now, no. You're gonna give this
you plus security.
Exactly.
Your road manager plus security. Ain't no more entourage. We not paying for, you know what I mean? Like 12 hotel rooms and shit like that. All that's coming out of your budget.
Again, hip hop changed the dynamic of what a team supposed to look like, right? So Motown, they had a bus, right, with 50 artists on it. But they were all performing. Everybody was getting money, right? It wasn't no whole bunch of people just hanging around just to be hanging around. Yeah, you had your roadies and things of that nature, but those roadies was out there working, making sure the sound was right, making sure things was where they supposed to be, all of that. The managers made sure that the artists got to where they were supposed to go, that they got paid, okay? Sometimes the promoters wasn't paying them, so the managers had to come with their guns in their pocket. Like, before we go on, we gonna get paid.
Whole different era.
Cats used to get in their own cars to do circuit tours, right? That Chitlin circuit down south.
Wasn't nothing to play with.
Wasn't nothing to play with, but they did it because they know that all the juke joints, all the underground joints, they was listening and waiting for the new artists to come out. So they would have something in their rotation.
And that's sometimes where you get your core fan base.
Absolutely.
They'll live and die with you.
That's right.
No disrespect. Certain big markets could be fickle. Oh, he not fizzling like he's not as hot as he once was. But you still making music, but it's not, like you said, it's not being popularized on that major platform. But certain Chitlin circuits and stuff like that, we still rocking out with you. We still loving the music that you're making. Because sometimes it's all about if you're not played on radio, not so much now, but if you're not.
What's your favorite rap song?
Ice Cube.
What about? Oh no, I'm not gonna ask you because you're gonna say something by Raw Fusion. Okay, what's your favorite rap jam?
It's Yours. That's old. No one doesn't know that.
T-La Rock. Can't Touch This by MC Hammer.
Okay, and why do you like that one?
Because it's raging and he's funky. Funky dance steps.
Now, but there's parents out there listening to this that think he's serious. Why is the audience laughing? I want to ask you, why do so many people get on Hammer? I mean, the man sold 10 million records.
I'm not getting on Hammer, and I'm not going to say he did sell 10 million records, but crack fiends bought 10 million rocks. That don't mean crack is good. That don't mean nothing. Selling records don't mean nothing. The reason, I'm down with him because he's a brother and he's making his mail. But, however, he's diluting rap. You know what I'm saying? He's playing that Sambo role, and the reason everybody's buying his record is because he's no threat, and everybody want to see Sambo dance. You gotta hear